I'm working on now 1989 300E, and what I'm going to do is change the centre bearing for the drive shaft. Before I get too carried away, I'm going to mark each end of the tail shaft, and where the tail shaft splits in the middle with a bit of white paint or something. The car runs extremely smooth and we want to keep it that way. And also I'm only changing this support bearing because I've got a bit of a hum, not because it's vibrating or anything like that. I want to get it before it packs it in. Well, I ended up having to drop the exhaust from the manifold, which is a pain in the arse. It's going to be fun putting it back together again. Up there it's so confined. Anyway, I can now get at my nut here, and what I'm going to do is block the transmission with a piece of timber and a jack underneath it, and carry on. Whoops. Okay, I've freed this locking nut up a couple of times now. It's loose, ready to go. I have the jack under the transmission with a piece of timber, and I'm now going to unbolt the bracket that holds the rear mount of the transmission. I left the mount there because I couldn't undo the top nut of it, but I can get to the bolts on the drive shaft, so that's okay. There's also another piece of metal up here for holding the which I've got to pull out. Then I'm going to undo the bolts holding the drive shaft up this end, on the transmission end. I'm try just doing the three bolts that hold the drive shaft on, and see if I can get off without having to pull the couplings off each end. I've undone the rear bolts here. Now I'm going to undo these two support bolts for the bearing and drop the drive shaft down. Well, I've finally got the drive shaft out. It was a bit of a problem because they always say, oh, you got this piece at the end here, you know, which lines up with the rear on the diff, but I didn't know about this bit at the front. All the info I saw was just plain. Anyway, I'll make sure that I've got marks to look correctly. We don't want to muck around. And see here's our new bearing, and see how it's got the flange there. That goes to the front. See, the old bearing, the flange is on this side. So that's how the bearing goes on. Now I'm going to part it and knock the bearing off and change it. Okay, I've just rolled this shaft over, and this one has marks. I just put a bit of chalk on so you could see it. One mark there and two marks there. So they line up, which is very handy, just in case you get the paint wrong. I've got my new bearing on. I've put a bit of grease, cleaned it up a bit there, and greased down that end, and the same underneath the car. And now I'm going to start putting it back together again. Well, I have the drive shaft back in position. As you can see, I don't have the bolts put in either end, and I have the centre bearing just up there to hold it in place. And now I'm going to put the bolts each end. The torque settings, going by the book, are 140 Newton meters. So I'll put the bolts each end, and then I'll tighten up the support bearing in the centre. Yeah, I told you the wrong torque 140, I'm 73 and I couldn't pull it that far. 45 to 60 is the torque settings for the couplings. 25 for the centre bearing bracket. I'll do that, and then I'll put the, then you pull up the locking nut on there, and it says, I think it's 30 Newton meters, but I haven't got anything to do that on the torque wrench, so I'll just tighten it. And then I'll put up the transmission support bracket. Well, I reckon I'll call it quits about now. As far as the tail shaft or drive shaft's concerned, it's all up in there, and now I can spend the rest of my life trying to put the exhaust manifold back in. Okay, thanks guys.